I've been lying to my father for 19 years about my son's birth, and honestly, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Am I the a-hole for letting my father believe my biological son is adopted just to protect my other children? Stick around, because when the truth finally came out via a DNA test, it turned our entire family dynamic into a war zone. To understand why I did this, you have to understand where I come from. My wife and I were part of an arranged marriage. I was 20, she was 18. In our culture, your worth as a couple is often measured by your ability to carry on the family name. But life had other plans. My wife has a medical condition that made pregnancy nearly impossible. Because our marriage was arranged, we didn't have that honeymoon phase intensity to keep trying and failing. It was exhausting. It was heartbreaking. And the pressure from our parents was constant. So we chose a different path. When we were financially stable, we adopted our first son at age 3. He's 26 now and the light of our lives. A year later, we adopted our daughter as a newborn. She's 22. We thought our family was complete. We were happy. But our parents? They were cold. They treated our children like guests rather than family. My father would always make comments about how it's a shame the lineage would end with me. Then, 19 years ago, the impossible happened. One night, after a few too many drinks and a rare moment of pure connection between my wife and me, she got pregnant. It was a miracle. But the second that pregnancy test turned positive, a wave of pure terror hit us. We knew our families. We knew that if they found out our youngest son was biological, he would become the golden child. Our 2 oldest, the ones we had raised and loved for years, would be pushed into the shadows. They would be the adopted ones, while the youngest would be the rightful heir. We couldn't let that happen. We wouldn't let that happen. So we lied. We hid the pregnancy for months. We wore baggy clothes. We stayed away from family gatherings. And when he was born, we told everyone we had adopted another baby. Only a few close friends and one cousin knew the truth. We raised all 3 of them as equals. They all know the truth now, of course. We told them when they were old enough to understand. And they agreed with us. They saw how the grandparents acted. They saw the bias. But lately, the pressure has reached a breaking point. My father is 69 now. He's getting older and his obsession with bloodlines is only getting worse. Recently, I was sitting with him and my cousin, the one who knows the secret. My father's side looked at me and said he was deeply disappointed that I never gave him a proper grandchild. He said he'd held out hope until my wife turned 45, but now he's accepted that the family name dies with me. I snapped. I told him he has 3 wonderful grandchildren. He just grumbled and said, "It's not the same and you know it." My cousin pulled me aside later. He thinks I'm the jerk. He says my father is an old man, and he deserves to know he has a biological grandson before he passes away. He argues that since the kids are all grown up, my father can't really treat them differently anymore. But I know my father. I know that the moment he finds out, he will try to rewrite his will. He will try to favor the youngest. He will make my older 2 feel like second-class citizens all over again. Well, the choice was taken out of my hands. 3 weeks ago, my daughter got one of those DNA testing kits for fun. She thought it would be interesting to see her heritage. Then, my youngest son decided he wanted to do one too, just to see if he had any interesting markers. They didn't think anything of it. They didn't realize that since my cousin had also done one of these tests years ago, the system would immediately link them. The notification hit my cousin's phone first. Close relative found. Then it hit my father's, because my cousin had set up an account for him to track their genealogy. The explosion was immediate. My father didn't just call. He showed up at my front door at 7 in the morning, trembling with rage. He looked like a happy grandfather who just found out he had a biological grandson. He looked like a man who had been robbed. He started screaming that I had stolen 19 years of his life. He called my wife a liar. He called me a traitor. And then, exactly what I feared happened. He turned to my youngest son, who was 19, and tried to embrace him. He started saying, "Finally, my real grandson. Everything I belongs to you." My youngest son didn't hug him back. He stepped away. He looked his grandfather in the eye and said, "If they aren't your real grandchildren, then I'm not either. I've known the truth my whole life. Grandpa, I knew you'd act like this. That's why we didn't tell you." My father was stunned. He tried to argue. He tried to say that the older 2 don't understand the importance of blood. But my youngest stood his ground. He told my father that he didn't want a dime of his inheritance if it didn't involve his brother and sister. Now, the family is in shambles. My father has officially cut me out of the will, which I expected, but he's also started a smear campaign within our community, telling everyone that I kidnapped his heritage and that my wife manipulated the whole thing. My cousin is still saying I'm the a-hole because the truth always comes out, and I should have managed the revelation better. He says that by lying, I created this explosive situation. He thinks that if I had been honest in the start, I could have trained my father to accept all of them. But I've lived with my father for 48 years. You don't train a man like that. You protect your children from him. My wife is a mess. She feels guilty, even though she knows we did it for the kids. My older children are being incredibly supportive, but I can see the hurt in their eyes when they hear what my father is saying about them not being real. So, I'm sitting here wondering, was I wrong? Should I have trusted my father to grow and change? Or was I right to shield my kids from a man whose love is conditional on a DNA strand?